Hello my friends, welcome back to We Are Wool People. My name's Ailsa and on this channel we talk about knitting. So if you're new here, I hope you enjoy this video. This is just an ordinary podcast about me and my knitting, my current whips, my plans for the reasonably near future and any other things that might have, piqued my interest in the last couple of weeks or so. So buckle up, we've got 3 finished objects to show you for February. I've had a fantastic February so far, so let's get started. All right, so my first finished object is what I'm wearing. This is the Feels Right tee by Lily Kate France that I knitted in exactly 10 balls of Cardiff Cashmere Classic in the colour Hermes. As you can see, it's not a tee, it's a pullover because I knitted it with long sleeves. I knitted the second smallest size and the entire thing was knit for me because I am a loose knitter, as I often tell you. I knitted this on a 2.75mm needle all over and it took me about, 3 weeks of long-term knitting. I had some time. So modifications that I made, apart from the obvious sleeves, I knitted them straight and then from here onwards I've decreased at a rate of about 1 every 8 rows or so. And I also did a half twisted rib on the cuffs, the bottom and the, neckline. I only twisted the knit stitches. I think that looks really good. Oh, and with the neckline, I actually did about 5 centimetres or 6 centimetres and I folded it inwards to the centre and then I used a crochet hook just to sew it down, which looks like that. It's quite a good edge actually, I like it. I'm really delighted with it. I personally have a little bit of trouble with Cardiff Cashmere getting it to be beautiful even knitting. I'm not the most beautiful even knitter anyway, but I do find Cardiff Cashmere is pretty unforgiving when it comes to gauge. It's a very, very, very lightweight yarn. I can't speak highly enough of Lily Kate's pattern. Her t-shirt patterns, her short sleeve and summer top patterns, I think they are literally second to none when it comes to size inclusivity for a start, but also for pattern detail and pattern writing. So hats off to Lily for being a fantastic knitwear designer. Her attention to detail is really spectacular. Her patterns are very easy to follow. They're simple, but the results that you get from them are really, really top notch. I've knitted a few things from her now, and every time I do it, it's always a pleasure from beginning to end. She is a really good designer. Particularly, I love the way that she designs an armhole in her set-in sleeves. This pattern had a few short rows across the shoulder to give it a little bit of a sleeve cap before you do start knitting in the round, and I think that's actually a really clever design choice because it gives a really great fit to the sleeve. Because if you think about it, to knit just a tube from an armhole doesn't really take into account that past the arm side, past the armhole here, your shoulder still actually does curve down. And a lot of patterns just knit tubes and they still work, but this one fits beautifully over the shoulder because of the short rows that are here to make a little sleeve cap. That's probably because it's designed as a t-shirt, so in Lily's pattern the sleeve sort of finishes there, so it's only the sleeve cap that sort of shapes the top of the sleeve to start with. But I really enjoyed it for the sleeve all the way down and I think it was a great choice. And also she really, where she shapes up the underarm, that's also really, really good. It makes the armhole to be the perfect length. It's not too long, but by the same token there's enough stitches in there for your sleeve to be comfortable. Beautiful fit on Lily Kate France's t-shirts. This is the Feels Right tee and I knitted it as a jumper with Cardiff Cashmere Classic in the colour Hermes. I used exactly 10 balls for the second size and I knitted it on a 2.75mm needle. One of the good things about this as well, just super quick, is that I was watching Edible Thoughts Makes, and on her video she shows when she does a finished object how that slots into her wardrobe and the different clothes that she wears it with, and she models a couple of outfits, and I thought that was a great idea, so I actually did that myself and I did it on Instagram. I'll put up here the post, because this jumper looks great with jeans, it looks great with a more sort of formal kind of, I say formal, but a more structured trouser. And I've also got a satin skirt with a red and yellow flower on it that this jumper also looks really good with. I'll put it up there, you can see. And I'm looking forward to getting much more wear out of it whilst I head into the colder weather. And I'm actually heading into some very cold weather next month. I'll talk more at the end about that, but that's really exciting. My next finished object is my triangle scarf. Do you remember I was saying that I was going to make a triangle scarf very similar to the Uma scarf by Petite Knit, but because of the simplicity in the shape of that item, and because it was just a straight stocking stitch triangle, I took it upon myself not to buy a pattern, but instead to self-draft a triangle scarf. And there you go, there it is, finished. A triangle scarf, self-drafted. I must say, I started with an I-cord tab cast on, which is a very, very common cast on used in shawl making, and there you can see it there up close. I-cord tab cast on starts with a provisional cast on of 3 stitches. That's assuming that your I-cord's going to be a 3-stitch I-cord, which mine is. You provisionally cast on 3 stitches. You then work 1, 2, 3 rows of I-cord. You then turn the work and you pick up 1 stitch along the edge of those 3 I-cord rows, and you unravel your provisional cast on and put the 3 original stitches back on your needle. So to begin, you've got 3 stitches on the needle that are going to be the I-cord that will continue around the shawl. You've got the 3 stitches in the centre, one for the body, one for the centre stitch, one for the other side of the body, and then you've got the provisional cast on stitches, which will form the left-hand side of your I-cord. And that's how you start your triangle shawl. And then on every right side row, you increase at each edge and on either side of the centre stitch. It actually doesn't really matter how you do that. I mean, you can say, all right, I'm going to do a left-leaning increase so that it leans towards the I-cord on the right-hand side. A right-leaning increase so it leans towards... Puppy, shush! Pretzel, stop! I'll have to go and see what that's about. There's probably someone at the door. Give me a second, sorry. Hello, I'm back again. Thanks for waiting. That was a real estate agent at the door. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, some clown thought it was a good idea to send the staff out knocking on doors. It's pouring rain, the poor thing. I felt very, very sorry for them. Are you thinking of selling your house? No, but thanks for asking. It really doesn't matter what increase method you use. You can choose to do a left-leaning increase or a right-leaning increase and then the opposite in the centre and the opposite on the other side, so your increases lean away or towards the join, whichever one you prefer. Well, there is one that is considered to be more correct than the other. I can't remember what it is. But whatever you do, if you just do the opposite on this side that you do in the centre and then the reverse on the way out, as long as it's fairly consistent, it'll still look good. Or you can just do a yarn over and then you'll get a little eyelet, or you can do a knit front and back and you again will get an eyelet, a little tiny hole. It really, really doesn't matter. I personally have devised a little technique that I think is quite genius, but I would because I devised it. Where what I do is I do a little backwards loop cast on the right side row, and then on the back side I knit into the back of that and therefore twist the stitch. Technically speaking, that is almost identical to a left and right leaning decrease. I could really explain the technical aspect of that to you, but it'll take a long time and I think it would be a bit dull. But I'm asking you to take my word for it. It actually is the same, because I am going to explain it to you. When you are doing a left-leaning increase or a right-leaning increase, what you do is you pick up the strand between the stitches and you place it on the needle in a certain way, so it's either leaning left or leaning right, and you knit that stitch and twist it on both of the leaning orientations. I want you to consider this. A backward loop cast on, if you do it tight enough, is actually identical to doing a leaning increase on the wrong side. Because when I knit, the bar between those stitches is actually the working yarn. And if I pick up the bar between the stitches and twist it, it's exactly the same as though I twisted a cast on stitch in the row before. Does that make sense? It's just that I'm doing it later. So take my word for it, it actually is that. It's a little bit looser, but it's exactly the same thing. So I just found that when I was on the right side rows, when I was on the right hand side of the spine, I just did a backward loop cast on with my right hand, left hand. Sorry, oh my God. I just did a backward loop cast on with my left hand. And then when I was on the left-hand side of the shawl, I did a backward loop cast on with my left hand. I found that I have opposing leaning increases and it didn't interrupt the flow of the shawl, and I didn't have to stop and think about it the whole way. It's hard for me to remember, even after all these years. I do find these things a little bit difficult to sort of style. They do sort of feel a bit awkward on me. At the very end, I cast off using an I-cord cast off. I will put a link in this video for some free triangular shawl patterns from Ravelry that you can have a look at that are very, very similar to this kind of thing. Something to remember when you are making a triangular shawl with an I-cord edge, or any shawl with an I-cord edge, and I think a lot of you probably had experience with this if you have ever knitted anything by Stephen West that's got a knitted I-cord edge. I can't stress enough the importance of keeping that I-cord edge loose, really, really loose. Because if you make it too tight, when you go to block your shawl, you'll find it difficult to get this line here to be actually horizontal, and you'll end up with a little bit of a bump in it. And mine does have a little bit of a bump in it, even though I tried really hard to keep it loose. From time to time, when I started my first stitch on my I-cord, I actually wrapped the yarn twice around the needle so that it was literally a double-sized stitch. And that actually disappears completely when blocking because it got blocked quite tightly. And then with the cast off, I did cast off with an I-cord edge, and I did find that it rolled quite a lot when I was blocking it, but I did some very, very aggressive blocking. But there you have it. There's my triangle shawl, my triangle scarf that I made without a pattern. And I'm very happy with it. The colour of it in particular is really lovely. It's going to be very nice. That is my second finished object. Now, I actually have something else to show you. And this is a surprise to me, to be honest with you. In my last podcast, I showed how I dyed some lace weight mohair. Actually, it was funny. In my last video, I kept saying goat mohair, but what I meant to say was kid mohair. For some reason, I just couldn't get that word right, because all mohair is goat. So thanks in the comments for pointing that out to me. I was having a senior moment. So I dyed, I think, as you saw in my previous video, the lace weight mohair silk blend yarn that I bought from Wagtail Yarns when I was in Bendigo the year before last, so 2024. And that had been sitting in stash, and it was originally pink, and I dyed it chocolate brown. Now, I'm not going to lie, that silk mohair yarn dyed way darker than what I was expecting. I was going for a chocolate brown, and what I got was a full-blown dark, inky espresso brown. And so I was in a little bit of two minds. I wasn't sure whether to go and get another DK weight base yarn to hold it with in the right colour of chocolate brown, or whether to go and buy a sweater's quantity worth of silk mohair that matched the colour on the cone. But in the end I thought, no, I've got plenty of dye. What I'll do is I'll pull the brown yarn off the cone and I'll dye that a similar colour. So that's what I did. I ended up pulling, this is the result, this is what I've got left, but I ended up pulling all that mohair merino blend yarn from the cone and dyeing that to match. And then I started my Archer's sweater. Now, for those of you who are new, you may not know this, but I very rarely knit anything over a 3.25mm needle, very rarely. Most of my knitted garments are 4-ply sport weight at the max. I don't knit much DK, I don't knit much worsted, and I definitely don't knit much chunky. So when I started this Archer's sweater on a 5mm needle, that's the biggest knitting needle that I've used for many, many years. I had to go and dig that 5mm needle up from the depths of the needle vault. So as a result of that, bada bing, bada boom, it just literally knitted itself. It was so fast, I can't believe it. So here I have finished my Archer's sweater, and it's blowing out a bit in the light, but it really is a lovely inky cappuccino, not cappuccino, it really is a lovely inky espresso colour. It's a very warm brown. It's got quite a lot of like violet in it. These two yarns both come from Wagtail Yarns. They're growers and processors of mohair yarn in Queensland, and the main yarn was a merino mohair blend, and the carry along yarn that I used as well was a mohair silk blend. I used 2 strands of the 2-ply mohair silk blend and 1 strand of the what they call 8-ply, but it is a little bit finer than an 8-ply to me. The resulting fabric is very heavy, very, very heavy, but in a really satisfying way, in the kind of jumper that might be almost like a weighted blanket, very comforting, very, very squishy. If I could describe the hand of this yarn to you, I would say that it has like a really oily, soft, liquid hand. It feels like a really heavy silk velvet or a wet seal, if that makes sense. It's got a beautiful gloss, and it's really heavy and really oily is the term that I would use for it. I think it's difficult to kind of imagine what that might mean, because I know that Paige from Two Pearls in a Pod, she talks about alpaca as having like being cool to the touch, and I'm not sure I understand what that means, but I think possibly that she might say the same thing about this. To me, it does have, you know, almost a liquid hand. That's how I feel about it. Anyway, enough about that sort of esoteric conversation. Let's talk about this jumper. I had a little bit of trouble choosing the size. I measured myself and I looked at the measurements of the garment, and I chose the size that I thought would have had an appropriate amount of ease for my sized body. But I noticed that on the model in the picture, she's definitely wearing an extra large or a large at the very smallest. And I could tell that by the number of increases that are on the model picture and the number of increases that I have along the saddle of this sleeve. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I think she's got like at least 11. And therefore this isn't as oversized on me, certainly, as it is on the picture on the pattern. I'm not really that bothered about that. It is quite nice. I'm ready to block it, and I'm going to model it for you and show it to you when it's been blocked. I did make one kind of major modification that changes the bottom silhouette of this jumper quite a lot. In the pattern, it's got a split hem. Now, I did that split hem, but it looked terrible when I did it. I don't think I followed the pattern properly about which stitch should be on each edge of the split hem, and I think I might have had a purl stitch on the back and a knit stitch on the front or something like that. Didn't look very good. So I ripped that out, and I did instead do a high-low hem by adding some short rows into the back, quite a few actually, so that the back of the jumper has a sort of curved hem that is quite a bit lower than the front of the jumper. I wonder if I can show it to you. Yeah, I can. Look, if I just hold it up like that, you can see how that works. So there's the back at the bottom, and there's the front. I hope you could see that. You will definitely see it when I've got it on. So I did go down 0.5 millimetre to do the ribbing on the bottom, and I did do a sewn tubular cast off on the bottom. So I didn't do the double knit rows, I just did the sewn tubular bind off, but on the neckline and on the sleeves I did the tubular double knit rows and then did the sewn bind off. I sometimes find that that doesn't look very good when I do it, but in this case, because the yarn is so beautiful and squishy, it does look really good. I'll show you that too. Came out really well. With the neckline, I think I did it to pattern, which is rare. It's a nice high mock neck. It doesn't roll over as like a polo neck, but it is a nice high mock neck. So that's my Archer's sweater finished. So that's it for my finished objects. There's 3 things that I finished in February, so I'm really delighted about that. So I found when I finished that Archer's sweater that I was in a little bit of knitting sort of limbo, and that's when you're susceptible to a sneaky impulse cast on, aren't you? I noticed on the same day that I did finish that jumper that the Pierre Cardigan by Joanna Gerrish dropped on Ravelry. And I couldn't resist it. I bought it immediately, and I have cast on for the V-neck version of the Pierre Cardigan. I cast this on actually only last night, and this is how much I've done. I'm going to show it to you, but I think I may end up frogging it and starting again, which, by the way, is not unusual for me. But here we go. There is my 1.5 repeats of the lace motif for the Joanna Gerrish Pierre Cardigan. Now, I don't expect anyone to be impressed with this because lace looks terrible unblocked, and so, you know, it doesn't look that good. This is 1.5 repeats of the motif, and this is the beginning of the back part of the cardigan. When I've done 2.5 repeats of that lace motif, I'm going to pick up across one shoulder and knit forward, same on the other shoulder, knit forward until you get into a place where you join in the underarms, and then knit backwards and forwards for the rest of the cardigan all the way down. This pattern, I think what Joanna has tried to do here is that she's tried to be very, very thorough and make her explanations very detailed in a language that's probably not her mother tongue, and that therefore it actually isn't as easy to understand as what it might be if she left out a lot of that chattiness, to be honest with you. I haven't found any mistakes in it, and I've only just done the first couple of repeats, so the chart's fine. But there's a couple of things that are a little bit difficult to understand. One of the things that I think is actually the most frustrating is that, you know, in a lace chart, for any of you who have knitted lace from a chart before, you know in a lace chart that if they leave the box blank, then it's kind of implied that it is a knit on the right side row and a purl on the wrong side row. And if there's a dot in the box, then it's a purl on the right side row and implied that it is a knit on the wrong side row. Now, half of this lace motif is done with a stocking stitch background, and half of it is done with a reverse stocking stitch background. And so instead of putting the dots in the chart, she's actually shaded them a different colour. And I completely missed that until I went into a Ravelry project to have a look at the pattern notes and looked close up at one of the Ravelry project pictures, and then looked at mine and went, oh, hang on a minute, something's wrong. Luckily, I got that fairly early on, and I went back and I fixed all those reverse stocking stitch rows. But that would have been very easily eliminated by just using what I consider to be very, very standard charting conventions and putting the little dots in the boxes. It's a minor complaint, but still, what is the point of creating your own chart conventions when there are chart conventions that already exist that many, many knitters already know? And the other thing is, I don't know if it's the way I've printed it, but only every second page has got a page number on it, so that is a little bit annoying. But the construction in general, once I get past this back panel and pick up the sides and do the top bit where all the complicated bit is, the structure of the cardigan in general is fairly simple, so I think I'll be all right. One of the things the pattern says is that don't panic as you're going. It's going to look very, very small. It will block out and, you know, make and get much bigger after it's been blocked. And I'm not experiencing that. I'm experiencing that it doesn't look very, very small at all, but I didn't gauge swatch. I got myself to blame for that. Do you get the feeling that I've just talked myself into frogging that? Watch this space. I think I'm going to start again on a smaller size. The yarn that I'm using is actually from Pasquale. Pasquale yarns will be coming to Australia with Yarnacopia in the next few months, and when that launch date gets closer, I'll talk more about this yarn combination and some of their other yarns. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you about my trip. On the 15th of March, I'm going to an international yarn trade show in Cologne. And after that, I'm going to Copenhagen for a week just to knit and to explore yarn stores and to explore the city of Copenhagen. To tell you that I'm excited is the biggest understatement I will have ever said in my life. And I'll be accompanying Erica from Yarnacopia on that trip. And while I'm here, I might just say, if you're watching this from Copenhagen and you're at a loose end anytime between the 23rd and the 30th of March this year, flick me an email at natabulous@gmail.com and yeah, we meet up for a coffee and a bit of a knit, or go to a yarn store or something like that, because we don't have very many plans. We've got a very, very loose itinerary for that week in Copenhagen. We're just going to be recharging and, you know, like regrouping and working on the research that we've done at H&H in terms of bringing amazing yarns to Australia next year, this year, later, you know, in the future. I'm grateful for a lot of things in my life, but one of them is to YouTube and to the amazing knitting community. Starting this channel has been one of the most rewarding things that I have ever done, and it is such a joy to be able to say that where I'm literally heading for retirement, having had a long career working for the government in Australia, and I'm about to head into a different phase of my life. And the fact that I have started something that is opening opportunities for me in the future so that I won't be left on the shelf and ignored, I can't tell you how life-changing it's been and how grateful I am for it. I strongly encourage anyone sitting at home on the couch thinking that they might want to start a YouTube channel. I don't think it matters how old you are. I don't think it matters what kind of technical skill you have in filmmaking or storytelling. I just think if you've got something to say and you would like to be saying it on the internet, then I encourage anyone to start a YouTube channel. If you do start a YouTube channel, send me an email and tell me the name of it, and I'll watch it and I'll also subscribe. Anyway, enough of that emotional crap. If you knew me in real life, you would know that I am an absolute lover of silk. I really love silk. Something about it just, I know everybody likes silk, I guess, but I've always been obsessed with silk. Right from when I was a child and someone brought a box of silkworms into school for show and tell. And then I went home and talked about that to my dad when I was little. You know, I was only in like about year 2. And he then showed me mulberry trees that were growing around the neighbourhood, and you don't see them as much anymore, but there's one around the corner from me, great big mulberry trees that get laden with fruit. And I have been absolutely obsessed with the silk making process ever since then. Well, Babylon Leather contacted me to tell me that they had a brand new silk and leather handbag line and asked me did I want to have a look at one of their bags and talk about it on the channel. Now, I wasn't 100% sure whether I should take that collaboration because up until November last year, I didn't receive any collaboration offers from anyone because the channel only had 3,000 subscribers. But since I started the Hot or Not series, there's a lot more subscribers now and a lot more viewers. And so I do get offers, and I actually do turn most of them down, to be honest, because they frequently either don't really align with who I am or what I talk about, or they're 100% AI generated and looks like they come from bots. But I'm not going to lie, when Babylon Leather reached out to me, you know, I did feel legitimised as a knitting podcaster, and I was very, very excited. So let me show you the bag and then I'll tell you about their silk. I chose this green floral Picotin bag because I thought that it would be the kind of thing that you could use as a small project bag for knitting if you wanted to, and because it was actually a nice little convenient size. It's made of split leather and silk, and it's got a removable inner shell and a little removable strap that goes over your shoulder. I asked quite a few questions about the production of this bag, and I was given a lot of fantastic information. They're really lovely people at Babylon Leather, like I mentioned. It's actually dyed in a province, in a town called Gali, in a province in China, and it's all naturally dyed without any chemicals. They're saying that it doesn't have any pollution whatsoever, the process of making these bags. One of their marketing elements that I quite liked is that they talked about the fact that silk had both a softness and a strength, and that they liked the idea that, you know, this kind of beautiful feminine product is also made of a thread that is extremely durable and strong. Another thing I actually like about them is because they're actually quite unusual, they've got like a vintage sort of individuality about them. And I think that's in a way where a lot of trends are going now. People are now looking at, you know, brooches are back in and laces back in and kind of vintage individual pieces that look like they could have been thrifted. I mean, this is an unusual bag. No one's going to, you know, mistake you for carrying a fake Hermes bag with this, because it's nothing like an Hermes bag. And that's one of the things I really like about it as well. You know, it's got a bit of an individuality. My 25-year-old daughter absolutely loved this bag, and I was very lucky that it's still in the house, to be honest with you. But anyway, I was really happy to partner with Babylon Leather, so thank you for providing me with this bag, Babylon Leather. They are absolutely lovely people. So yes, Babylon Leather have also been kind enough to offer me a discount code. I will put that in the description box and up here somewhere if you are interested in having a look at their brand new range of ready-made bags that are made in silk and leather. They really are very, very beautiful individual pieces. That one's actually very inexpensive. Another thing that I really liked about the range. For my trip to London, Cologne and Copenhagen, I suspect it's going to be still pretty cold there. I know it was blizzarding in Copenhagen last week, and Cologne didn't look much warmer either. I was looking at videos of the cathedral looking very gothic and literally covered in snow. I need a hat. And I also need something for my hands. I need some gloves. And I actually don't own a beanie or a hat because I don't really wear them. And I'm going to have to turn that around, aren't I? I'm going to make a hat out of these two yarns. This is some leftover black wattle jacaranda 2-ply, which is Surrey alpaca and silk. And this is Bendigo Woolen Mills luxury 4-ply in the colour Ghost, of which I appear to have a never-ending supply. It's a beautiful colour, really love it. So I'm going to make a hat. Probably going to make, because they're trendy, a hat that looks a bit like a Cossack hat out of it, with a double brim that's kind of got a fluffy edge on it, and then, you know, just a normal, the rest of it, I don't know what head part, that part just sort of normal. Maybe where you can see the decreases. I think it's my favourite things. It's got a few patterns at the moment that look really good like that. And I might have a go at actually brushing that out a little bit. I think I should do it on a swatch, as Donna suggested to me. She looked at me and went, do that on a swatch. Don't do that on your beautiful finished garment. You might pull all the hair out completely from your mohair. And she's right. But that's what I'm going to make with this to go on my trip. Now, the Australian Yarn Show is on the first weekend of March. I unfortunately can't make it, and I'm really disappointed because I was really looking forward to it. And up until about 6 weeks ago, I was definitely going. And then I looked at my calendar, and because I don't do anything until the last minute, I realised that I've got a clash. So I won't be at the Australian Yarn Show. If you go, I hope you have a fantastic time. I will be enjoying myself, but still I'm already getting quite severe FOMO. I wish I was going, but I won't be there this year. Is that all? I've got black cockatoos squawking in the tree outside. They're beautiful looking birds, but geez, they make a racket. Okay, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you for watching. I really, really appreciate every single one of you, and all my new subscribers. Welcome to We Are Wool People. I look forward to many, many more episodes being shared with you, and I hope you're enjoying them. Let me know what you think of this video, and let me know in the comments what you're working on and whether you had to restart it 3 times before you got it going. I find that I usually have to restart almost everything that I knit at least twice, and some things I've knitted 3 times by the time I get to the end of them. In any case, I will be back next week for another episode. So until then, I want you to be good, and I will see you next time. Bye.